Hello, everyone, and I'm very honored to have the first session today in this almost whole day conference that we do online. And yeah, so I want to teach a bit about conversion optimization. And I know normally the people here might be more into SEO, into content marketing, and so on and so on. Maybe conversion optimization is a topic that is not known to everyone here, but you will get some things that work for me many times. So there are always these best practices that you find out there, and it's always a bit, you have to be careful when you read case studies or anything out there about things that work well. Like my favorite example is to say, oh, you have to change the button color from green to orange and your sales will double. And all of this is very much bullshit. So today I bring you some things that, at least for me, work most of the time when I test them, or almost all the times. And these are some things you still have to follow with being careful. So don't just copy blindly. I always recommend to A/B test. I will also, in the end of my session, tell you how to actually run an A/B test and test things for yourself that you implement to your own sites. And also, I don't know exactly the contents of the other people that are presenting today because I haven't seen the presentations yet, but anything you want to do on your site, of course, if it's possible, you should always try to test and to see if it actually makes an impact on your own visitors, on your own conversion rates, instead of just blindly following what people say. Not saying that they will not give you great tips or anything, but again, so just be careful. Same thing with my presentation. And I will just start with a very brief introduction. So I don't want to bore you with all the about me slides. So I just have one slide about this. So I've been doing conversion optimization for many years now, so like I don't know exactly how many, like 10 years or something, and I've been in online marketing since 2004. And then at some point I founded a conversion optimization agency, and we became the second biggest conversion agency in Germany. And I had the opportunity to work with many big and also small clients, and some of them you can see here on this slide. And then from these clients, or from working with these clients, because you can test so many things and try out so many things, you learn so much. And that's kind of what I do now. So I left the agency around 4 years ago, and now I'm mostly sharing my knowledge. So I'm not really doing the agency stuff anymore, because it wasn't for me after doing this for many years. And I kind of like to be on my own right now. So these days I'm a consultant, so I work still with some of those clients you see there. I'm speaking quite a bit. Not so much this year, as you can imagine, but normally I'm on many conferences where I talk about conversion optimization. And I'm also a CRO, or conversion optimization lecturer, for Google's European digital marketing degree, which I'm pretty proud of. And I've done more than 2,000 A/B tests for more than 300 companies. And some of these things I share with you today, or some of these things that I learned there. And then also I have a startup that's site info. Okay, let's jump into it, because we only have around, I think, 45 minutes or something to give you the content, and then we can still have some Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, and then we will go through them afterwards, and then I will answer anything you want to know. Can be about these slides, but can also be general conversion optimization questions, so as you wish, or even if you have something that you see in this presentation, you can just say to me, hey, this is my link, this is my website, if that's allowed. I don't know, actually, we haven't talked about this before, but we can also go to your pages and give you some feedback on that, considering you have a specific question. All right, so the first one is you should gather tons of feedback. So the problem is we all know too much when we work with our products or our companies, or wherever we work. So we've been working on that maybe for several years, maybe for several months, or however long. But after some time, it's really hard to get this third person's or the new person's point of view. So it's really hard to see the website from a perspective that new people have, that people have that don't know your company, that don't know your products. And this kind of makes it very hard to optimize these pages from a conversion optimization point of view, because yeah, we just know too much, as I just said. So especially if you are, or if you have designers or copywriters in your company, then what they tend to do, no offense, but they tend to kind of optimize pages by gut feeling. So they just say, oh, I think this is a better text, or this is a better design, or this is a better layout, or this is better usability, or something like that. and then they don't really test it. They just think it's better, but they don't really know. And then sometimes when you launch these changes, what you can see is that actually your conversion rates go down, or if you can see it. So even if you optimize a small page, like let's imagine you have 100 sub pages on your website, and then you make changes to one small page where not all of your traffic goes to, then it's sometimes not even visible that you actually harm your conversion rates by doing some changes, because you cannot see it in the analytics data really, because it's such a small percentage. But then in the end, you earn less money and you don't really know it, and that's not really what you want. So instead, you should just ask people. So what you can do is you can go to friends or to your parents or to anyone. So like, of course, it makes sense to ask people who are potentially interested in your product, and then ask them, what do you understand on these pages? Where are you hesitant? Where do you maybe not find what you're looking for? And so on and so on. So give them some tasks, maybe make some user tests, so you can tell them, for example, if you have an online shop or something, you can say something very general, so something like buy a product. That would be a very general approach. Or you can ask very specific things like please buy blue shoes, whoever buys blue shoes, but buy blue shoes in size 45, and then you can kind of observe how they use your page and how they navigate through your page. Do they use the search bar? Do they understand the filters on your category pages? And so on and so on. Do they understand your checkout process? And then you kind of get a lot of feedback from them by just observing what they're doing on your page. Of course, also you can use stuff like mouse tracking or eye tracking or event tracking or something. So just try to get a lot of feedback from what people are actually doing on your pages. Also, what works really well is this thing. So Hotjar or any other tool that can do this. So you can also use Mouseflow or Coloroo and so on. So there are many tools that you can use to ask questions. And these work pretty well if you ask the right questions. And you can just, on specific pages, if you identify that on page X, we're losing a lot of people, or many people abandon our pages or don't do what we want them to do, then you can always ask people, hey, are you finding everything you're looking for here? Do you have any questions? What would you recommend to optimize on this page? What is important for you when you're buying this product, and so on and so on. So you can just ask any questions there. And also, pretty many people reply. So from my experience, it's like 0.5% of people who reply to these questions. And so depending on how much people are on your website, you get kind of many answers, many replies, and then you can use them to optimize your pages. And this works pretty well, usually. Number 2, use your header whitespace. I just used my examples because I don't want to be sued by anyone for ripping apart their pages, so I just do it with mine. Or actually, this is a positive example. But however, so one thing I see on most pages that I look at, so whenever I do audits or something for any website out there, they're wasting their header, so their top part of the page, because they only have the logo and they have the navigation, and then usually that's it. But you should do multiple things so you can add trust, social proof, and position yourself, as my subheadline says here. And so let's go through the single things one by one. So one thing, to add trust, to add social proof, you can just add some bar there or some area in your header. You have to make space for it sometimes, because your header would normally not allow for more information, because it's already packed with your logo, with your navigation. But then also sometimes you can just move your navigation to the bottom, like have it in a single row under the logo, and then maybe you have space up there for your trust and social proof elements, or you can arrange it however you want. So in this case, for example, I didn't change my header really much. I just added a line below, and this works as well. And then you can use this to add trust and social proof. And what I would recommend there is usually saying something about your experience. So how long have you been in the market? This, of course, doesn't only work for consultants or agencies. This works for everything. So if you're specialized in selling something, like if you're an online shop for fashion or something, you could say that we have this many years experience in the fashion industry. Or you could say something about your clients. So for example, how many clients do you have? You can show off your numbers, you can brag a bit about it, and you can say something about how many people recommend you to their friends, or you can say something about any great awards you got or whatever. So whatever comes to your mind that you can put up there, it usually makes sense to add like 3 to 4 elements in the header to build trust and social proof very, very early. And this is especially great because when people come to your page, they don't always land on your homepage, of course. So usually the homepage is not your most frequently visited page that you have. Can be, but doesn't have to be. But then many pages or many websites only add these kinds of informations on the homepage and on the About Us page. But then all the people who land on any other landing pages that you might have, like product detail pages or pages where you describe your services or your offers or any other random pages like blog articles or whatever, they might bounce very easily if you don't give them a reason to trust you and to trust what you're saying there. So in this case, it's a great place to add this to your header because it doesn't interfere with the reading flow of the user. So if you have the content there where you describe the problem or an offer or anything, you don't want to add this, oh, by the way, we are really great, we are really trustworthy, but instead you can add it to your header where it doesn't impair the reading flow. And then people will still notice it and it's visible on any page, no matter where they land. So I really recommend this position. And yeah, it's, I think, great to do. And then one more thing to position yourself. So what I like to do, you can see this under my logo, or it's not really a logo, it's just my name. But under that, I kind of like to add a tagline or a slogan or a claim or something where you explain what are you doing, what are you good at, just to position yourself as an expert or as an authority, maybe even in the field that you're working in. And yeah, let's say if you're, for example, you're an online shop for personalized gifts for birthday presents or something, then you could say something like the birthday presents expert. That's a bad example, but you understand what I mean. Okay, next example, and I'm taking one sip of water because I'm talking really fast. Cheers. The next example is you should never hide a short form behind a button. And this is something that these days you don't see so often anymore. You kind of see it a bit often, but not on all pages anymore. But in the past, when you would go to a page, you would always have a button, and then it would lead you to a form on a subpage. So let's say, as an easy example, for a newsletter sign up. And then people would have on their homepage or whatever page, they would have some area where they say, hey, subscribe to a newsletter or something, and then they would have a button that leads you to the subpage where you can then fill the form and sign up for the newsletter. And then I think 10 years ago or 8 years ago or something, we did a lot of A/B tests for landing pages that had exactly this, because my agency in the beginning, we were just specialized in landing pages, and then we were having many clients for landing pages at the same time. They were all built in this way, so they would all have the button and then have the form on the subpage. And then at some point we were like, why do we actually do this? Because it's such a short form and people should see how easy it is to fill. So most of the times for newsletters, you would only ask for an email address or maybe for a name and an email address, but you don't ask for much information. So it's really easy to fill, and it would be a positive user experience probably if people would see the form already to see how easy it is to fill. And then we tested this on, I think, 60-ish pages. And in each single case, we had an uplift in conversion rates. Sometimes, or most of the times, it was around 5 to 10% uplift. So only from this simple change, which is already quite a lot. But in some cases, not only for newsletters, but especially for lead generation, like for lead forms, we sometimes saw uplifts even from for 100% or even higher than that, just from this simple change. Then again, for pages where the form was really long and really complicated, we had the opposite effect. So that when people could see already that the form is complicated to fill, it would rather turn them off. So they would rather not fill it. But in this case, so it makes more sense to hide your form behind a button, because then you have this other psychological effect, which is the principle of consistency and commitment. If you've read the Science of Persuasion book, there it is explained in more detail, but there it basically says as soon as someone gave you a yes by clicking a button, they are less likely to turn away from the yes. So they are more likely to fill the form, at least in a way. But again, so for short forms, really try to put them on your page instantly, and not only for home pages or something, but also if you have, let's say, a blog and then you want to create newsletter subscribers, then don't put a button to your newsletter page in the sidebar of your page, but actually put the form there directly. You will usually see a pretty nice increase in signups for your newsletter. Then one thing that annoys the, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the F word here, but that annoys the fuck out of everyone is exit intent pop-ups. So nobody likes them and everyone hates them. And you know, when you come to a page and you're reading something, and then suddenly, maybe it's on exit intent, so you're just moving your mouse around, and then suddenly you have this massive window that jumps into your face, and that annoys you, and that prevents you from reading the content that you came for. So no one likes it. It's, I would say, always a really bad user experience. On desktop and on mobile, it's even worse, because sometimes you have these overlays, and imagine you would click on a Google result. So you're searching for pictures of cats, for example. We've all done it. And then you would click on this result, and then you would come to a page on your phone, and then this pop-up or this overlay appears, and then some people don't even understand that they can close it by clicking the X icon in the corner, and some people would just click the back button. So that means they're getting sent back to Google, which for Google is, of course, a sign that, oh, this person bounced. Because, I mean, Google doesn't really use analytics data for their search engine rankings. At least they say that they don't. But of course, they can track which links are clicked on Google, and then how long did it take for the person, after clicking a result, being on the page, how long does it take to be again on our website, so on Google. And then from that, they can kind of measure what was the time on page and did the person bounce or not. And in this case, so you send kind of a bounce signal by adding these overlays to your page. And it's pretty bad. So I wouldn't do that. And also one more thing that is terrible about these windows is that if you, for example, I will use the newsletter example again. So if you are using these to collect email addresses, which many pages do, then even if you A/B test it, so you can say, oh, I've tried it, so we've tested this pop-up against adding our form in the footer of a website or something, and then yes, you will get more subscribers, of course, because many more people see these forms. However, when you make these A/B tests, or when people make these A/B tests, most people only track the sign-up rates, but they don't track, as a secondary goal maybe, their conversion rates for other goals, like for sales or for leads. And then in this case, what can happen, or what usually even happens, is that people might sign up more often for your newsletter, but you're reducing your sales by creating annoyance in people. And this is something, if you test these things, you should always do. But in general, I would never recommend to use these overlays. However, it's nice to have these overlays because they are so attention grabbing. So people really see them a lot, obviously, because they jump in your face. However, it's still a bad user experience. So something else that you can do is using slide-ins, which is something like this. So instead of hiding the whole content by adding an overlay there that prevents users from seeing the content they want to see, you can say that, for example, after 10 seconds or after scrolling 50% of my page, or after whatever event happens, or even on exit intent, I will show the slide-in that comes slid. Oops, wait, no, don't go away my screen. It comes from the site, and it will still get almost the same attention that this overlay gets because of the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is a part in our brain that is really old. Scientists say it's like 500 million years old. I don't know how old it is. I also don't care. But it's the part that is there for all the simple stuff, or the theoretically simple stuff, like functionality of organs, or like in recognizing dangers or instinctive behavior. So all the primitive things, you could say. And this is exactly what happens here. So imagine you're reading the text on a page, and then from the side, this slide-in appears, and it appears out of your focus. So you're looking there, but then here something appears, and you need to look there because you need to see what's happening there. And this is basically the same pattern that happens in the brain, or the same mechanism that happens in your brain that happens if you are standing on a street and then a car comes from the side. You need to pay attention because something's moving. You're not looking there, so you want to look there. And this is exactly what happens here. And I mean, if we go back 500 million years, then maybe there was a mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger coming from the side, and you need to pay attention to it. And it's still the same mechanism. So this really works well for getting attention. and you don't annoy everyone so much. So yeah, I would use these instead of using overlays. Next one is you should optimize your bullet lists. So there are some rules that I like to have for bullet lists, because bullet lists are really, really important. So they are usually getting read much more often than paragraph copy. So if you have just sentence after sentence, it usually doesn't get read that often compared to having things in a bullet list or in something like a bullet list, so just some sort of list. Because I don't know why exactly, but I guess because bullet lists are more like the facts that people get and more the essence of things, compared to a paragraph, which is sometimes more blah, blah, blah around the topics. And for bullet lists, you can do it right or wrong. And there are some rules that I like to have. So I would just go through all of them. So the first one is make put the most important bullet in the first place and the second most important bullet in the last place. So this kind of supports the primacy recency effect, or also the serial positioning effect, which states that people will recognize or also remember the things that are written first and last the most often. So that means if you have 5 bullets, you would not make the order of priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you would do 1, 3, 4, 5, 2. So have the first important in the first place and the second important in the last place. And by this, you make sure that more people will recognize or remember your most important bullets that you have in this list. Then the second one is you should use check icons. So it sounds simple and it sounds primitive, and it kind of is. But if you have these check icons or tick icons or whatever, we've all seen them, you kind of support this mental box ticking. So if people go through the list, instead of just having bullet icons, which is like, I don't know, no reaction, with these check icons, you sometimes evoke this effect in people's brains. So it's kind of better to support the mental box ticking, and it usually gets a bit more attention also than just using normal bullet icons, because it's also sort of a positive icon. So it's like it shows me, oh, that must be a benefit or something that's good for me if I use this. Then you should use spacing between bullet points. So many bullet point lists or bullet lists have just one point after the other. And this makes it really difficult sometimes to focus on content or to orient or to get orientation or something. So by adding some spacing between, not too much, but maybe like 10, 15 pixels, maybe one line of empty text or something, that would really help people orient themselves or orientate. I don't know this English word, but it helps people with orientation, and it makes it easier to see. I will also have an example with a comparison in a second for you to see all these things that I'm explaining right now. Then 3 more things that I find important for bullet lists is you should put a short summary at the start of each bullet. So that means if you have a long bullet point that is, let's say, 2 lines long, which would already be pretty long, then you can just summarize it in maybe 1, 2, or 3 words at the beginning of the bullet point. Because people, when they skim through your page, so they will just usually get this quick overview. So they're not really reading everything word by word, but they're just quickly skimming over. And then if you have bullet lists, usually the first parts of them get skimmed. So they will see them. And then you can make it even stronger by making the summary bold. So you have the normal bullet point in not bold text, so in regular text weight. And then if you make the summary bold, you will even direct more attention to these, because you create more contrast by using bold words. And then they are seen much more often. And you can also, if you want to take it a bit further, add the icon colors. Let's say if you have a green check icon, for example, you could use green text in the beginning as the summary of your bullet point. And then the last point is you should use a maximum of 3 lines per bullet point. I would really try to use as few text or as few words as possible. So don't use so many lines. 3 is already a lot, but sometimes it has to be. But yeah, I would really reduce it as far as you can. So reduce every text, remove every text that doesn't make someone love you or buy from you. And then, just try to get the essence there of what you want to say. As a quick comparison, so here you can see bullet lists. I would just let you look at them for, maybe look at each of them for 5 seconds. So let's look at the left one, 5 seconds. Okay, and now the right one for 5 seconds. Okay, and what you hopefully see is that in this case, the right one is much, 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 much easier to grasp, to understand, to get the content out of it. Fun thing, in case you didn't notice, it's literally the same content. So the left one and the right one, they say the same, but the right one follows the rules, the left one doesn't. So in this case, maybe you can see that what I just showed you, these rules, or what I explained to you, actually makes sense, and it's much, much better if you follow these rules compared to if you don't follow them. All right, that just as the comparison. Then to the next point, number 6 out of 10, benefits beat features. And this is something that people really like to confuse a lot, or they don't really understand the difference between the two. What is a benefit? What is a feature? I always, if you've seen a talk of me before, you probably have heard this example before. I'm sorry if I bore you. However, I will use it for the rest of you. So if we're selling chairs, let's say I'm sitting on this chair right now. You can't see, but I am not standing, I'm sitting. And let's say this chair has an ergonomically designed backrest. And this would normally, for many people, be a benefit, but it's not. It's a feature that results into a benefit. And then how you can transform these features into benefits, you can take any product that you sell or any offer, any service. It doesn't have to be a physical product that you can touch. It can be anything really. And then all the features that you have in there, for each of these features, ask yourself the question, what positive outcome does this feature bring for my customer? And to give you the example of this chair, so let's take the backrest that we have here. What positive outcome does the ergonomically designed backrest bring for my customer? And then we could say you have a straight sitting posture, a healthier sitting posture. And then you can ask further, how is the healthier sitting posture good for my customer? And then you could think of less back pain, for example. And then you can ask further, how is less back pain good for my customer? And then you could think of maybe they're more agile, or they have a healthier sleep, whatever. So you can really ask further and further and further. At some point, it will get a bit weird. I'm not getting there today because I don't know how serious we have to be here. But it's at some point you should stop asking further and further. But again, for every feature that your product or your offer or your service have, you can ask these questions. You can transform your features to benefits, and then you can use them on your page in your copywriting. And you should focus on the benefits, but you can prove them with your features. So you could say, again, same example, you could say, have less back pain thanks to a healthier sitting posture that you will get from our backrest, something like that. So you can combine the two, but focus more on the benefits. At least I would recommend in most cases. Then number 7 is you should utilize your thank you page for post-conversion conversions. So what that means, if you have any goal on your page, so let's say you can be an online shop where people buy something and then they have the confirmation page after they bought from you. Or in this example, this is what I do. So you have a newsletter and or a mailing list and people subscribe to it and then they come to the thank you page. Or you have an agency and people are filling out your lead form and sending it, and then you have a thank you page. So any thank you page really that you can think of after creating an account or whatever, it doesn't matter. You should use these because in this moment, when people come to these pages, they have such a high trust in you because they just converted, they just gave you their data, they just gave you their email address or even their credit card details or their payments. And you should use this momentum to ask for simple further conversions. And you can do this like I do here. So I'm like, oh, thanks for subscribing. And then I try to upsell that. This is, of course, a bit aggressive. However, you can also use simpler goals. Like, for example, you could say, I don't know, like, are you interested in topic XYZ? Then you should follow us on our Instagram page to learn more about this because we post regular stuff. Or you could ask for, like, if someone buys from you, you can ask them to sign up for your email list and blah, blah, blah. So you can really just think of a simpler goal, a goal that is not as high friction, as high inhibition as the goal they just confirmed. And if the goal is easier than the one they just went through, then the likelihood of them converting again for these post conversions is really, really high. And this really makes a lot of sense. Most thank you pages just say, thank you for signing up, go back to homepage. And this is bullshit. This doesn't make sense because you're wasting so much potential there. Okay, then number 8. I think I'm a bit fast with my presentation today, but if you have questions, again, ask anything in the comments. Maybe we have some. So repeat your link in your email's PS section. So this is a bit of a switch away from website optimization to email optimization. So whenever I send emails to people and I just put a link there. So of course, not all of your emails should include a call to action, because sometimes you just want to give information to keep people interested in your mailing list, to not have people unsubscribe from you because they think they get value out of it. It's not just an endless sales pitch or something. However, if you do a sales pitch, or you want to tell them about a webinar or about a conference like today's conference, or about anything really, so you want to send them to somewhere, then having this link in your text in your email, or even if it is a button, which gets a bit more attention than a text link, obviously, the click rate is never as high as if you repeat this link in your PS section. So you can have the content of the email, however long it is, and then in the end of the email, because many people scroll down just for no reason, just to see, even if they're not reading the email, they often scroll down. And then at the end of your email, you just repeat it and maybe add it from a different point of view, or maybe add some extra benefit there or something in your PS section. So after you say, hey, have a nice day, Nils, and then PS, and there you add the link, and then the click rate really goes up noticeably, however. And this really makes a lot of sense to get more clicks or more click-throughs in your emails. And again, this is a bit of a detour we take here from website optimization to email optimization, but email, in my opinion, is one of the best marketing channel you can have. And I think it makes sense to know some things about these as well, because many principles from conversion optimization you can, of course, apply to email marketing as well, or to search engine advertising, or to display advertising, and so on and so on. So all these things that you hear today don't only make sense for websites, but you can apply them to many things. Then my second last one is you should not relaunch. And I guess, so I'm not seeing the audience right now, but I guess that many of you, or at least some of you, are either in a relaunch right now, or plan a relaunch, or just had a relaunch, because relaunches happen all the time. And I don't really understand why people do this. And there are so many dangers, so many hazards when you're relaunching, because as I wrote here, so it costs money. It's so expensive to rebuild a whole website. It's not a thing that takes a week. Sometimes it takes a year or half a year or whatever. So there's a lot of work that goes in there, a lot of money that goes in there. Then you maybe need third parties like developers or designers or consultants that help you with your relaunch. You need to put in your own time. You need to put in your employees' time or your team's time. And it's just not really nice. And then the problem with all of this is, if you relaunch, it's not a guarantee for actually making more sales after that, or making more money after that, because relaunches sometimes just, they stagnate. So the conversion rates don't change at all after that. Sometimes they even drop, so you're actually losing money after a relaunch. Sometimes it can go up, but I've never seen a relaunch where after the relaunch, suddenly the numbers go through the roof. It's normally just a slight increase, if it increases anything. So what you should do instead of relaunching is you should start A/B testing today, if you haven't already. Because A/B testing, in case you don't know what it is, I guess most of you will know, but I will still explain it in one sentence. So A/B testing is basically, you add a small script or tool to your website, and then you have your original version of your website, and then you can use the testing tool to create variations or variants of the original. You can change text, you can change everything you want really, so all of the front end of your page. And then you can, what the testing tool does is it splits the traffic, the visitors that come to your page, between your original and your changed variants. And then it measures in the end, where do more people convert? And by that, it gives you a statistically significant result in the end, if you made a good test, which says, okay, this version is better than the original with a likelihood of 96%, for example. And this is really how you should optimize pages, and you shouldn't just make changes without testing them. So as I said in the beginning, everything I tell you today, and probably also many things that you will hear throughout the day, are nothing you should just copy blindly, instead test it. And even when I speak to people from the digital marketing field, they sometimes think A/B testing is super difficult and you need so many resources for it, but it can actually be pretty simple if you do simple A/B tests. Of course, tests can be difficult, but they can also be very simple. So if you only change text, for example. For this purpose, I've recorded a quick video for you where I just show you how you set up an A/B test. So you can use Google Optimise. This tool is free. So there are many tools out there, most of them are not free. And you can just Google for Google Optimise. It's an extension of Google Analytics, basically. So if you use Analytics, it's easy to use Optimise. It takes like 5 minutes to implement. And then if you go there, you can just say, you go into your account. I've created this in the past. And then you just say create experience. So an experience is basically an A/B test. Then you put a name there. So you can use any name you want. Of course, you want to use a name that is kind of explanatory, so you know what you're testing there in this test. And then you can select the URL. So where do you want to run the test, on which page, on which subpage of your website. And then you can select A/B test, multivariate test, redirect test, or personalization. For this talk, because we don't want to go too deep into the details, but we'll just use A/B test, which is change the original into one or more variations. And then you open this page, and here, I try to synchronize this with the video. Here you can add variants. And then, of course, these you should also name in a way that in the end, in the statistics, you see that you understand what you're doing there. So let's just say we change the headline. For example, this is a very simple example now. Then you can click edit, and then you will get to your page. So it actually opens your page in the browser, as you can see in the URL bar up there. And then it loads the extension of Google Optimise. You have to use Google Chrome for this, by the way, but it will load the extension where you can then just click everything on the page, and you can just click the elements. And you can also use this bar up there if you want to select a different element, and then you can just say edit HTML, because this is a headline that consists of HTML parts, and here you can just change the text. So I'm just doing this in this example, and then you click apply, and then you see it's already changed. But then also there, sometimes if the headline or the text doesn't contain any HTML, you can actually just say edit text. You can literally type into your page. So it's so simple in these cases. And once you're done with that, you click finished, and then you click save, and then you click finished again. And then it takes you back to the overview where you just were, so where you just edit the variant. And then once it loads, it's sometimes a bit slow. So here you can say how many people, how much percentage of my traffic should go in which variation. Here you can add the URLs if you want to say this test should run on multiple pages, or it should just run for people on mobile devices or on people in Berlin or whatever. So you can really do a lot of targeting there, a lot of page targeting and audience targeting. And yeah, so you can just click through all of that yourself. So you can also say, yeah, this is the thing where you can select the mobile devices or desktop or tablets. And as you see, so far, we have not used a single line of code here. And then okay, sorry, one more example. So yeah, you can do a lot of stuff here. You can use cookies, you can use URL parameters so that you only test for people coming through your campaigns, and so on and so on. So there's a lot of stuff that you can just click through, as I said. So this you would use for campaigns if you want to use UTM parameters or something. And then in the end, this is my favorite part. So because it's an extension of Google Analytics, you can add the description. Sorry that I'm a bit bouncy here. So yeah, you can add your hypothesis here. Of course, you should never test without a hypothesis. You need a good idea for a test, not just taste anything random. And then the objectives, that's my favorite part. You can just choose from Google Analytics. So because it's connected to Google Analytics, the goals that you have in Google Analytics, you can just select and it will work. So there's nothing where you have to add separate code or touch the code of your page or anything. You can really just select the goals that you already have set up in Analytics where you know they're tracking all right, so they're not faulty or anything. And then once you're done with that, you just click start, and then the test runs. And that's how easy it is. So important note about that. So of course, not every test is this simple. So some tests have very complex code, very complex front end. Sometimes you use You need to use backend development as well, where people have to change something on the server or change something on your CMS or whatever. So not every test is simple, but really, if you want to test stuff like which wording do we use for this headline, what wording do we use for the bullet list, or how do we display the bullet list, like the things that I showed you a bit earlier, or you want to change different images or anything. These things are so simple. You don't need any line of code for that. And you can just use this clicky, what you see is what you get editor, and then you can run the test, and that's it. I would really recommend you start with this if you don't do it already. And I really recommend Google Optimize. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. It's just there are so many tools out there, and some of them are pretty pricey. And Google Optimize, as I said, is free, at least in the free version. There's also Google Optimize 360, which is if you use Analytics 360. However, the free version works or is enough for most companies, for most websites out there, because you can run up to 5, I think, tests in parallel, which is more than you will usually be able to run, because a test takes some time to be finished. And you can do, I think, 7 variations or 7 variants per test. And per test, you can select 1 primary goal and 2 secondary goals. And the primary goal is taken for calculating the winning variant, the winner of the A/B test. However, and what is also one thing that I really love about it is that when you have test results, you can not only see the results in Optimize, which shows you the graphs of each variant, how they're performing, but instead you can actually say, open these results in Analytics, and then it will automatically create a user segment or an audience segment in Analytics of everyone who was in this one or each variation. And then you can actually see your whole Analytics filtered down to this one variant that you created in the test, which no other tool can do really. So they all say they have Analytics integrations. I've never seen one that works so pleasantly well. So yeah, check it out if you want to. So just, Google Optimize. I think I've said this a few times now. All right, and that was my presentation. Just some last words. So I hate people who advertise themselves in their talks. I just have one slide at the end. Just if you want to learn more about conversion optimization, I have this masterclass where you are very welcome to watch a lesson for free, which also goes a bit into more detail about this bullet list example that I had, and also shows you 2 other examples, like a 45-minute video. So if you want to, of course, don't leave this presentation now, but if you want to sign up on your phone or something, you can just go to my page that you see on this slide. And that's it. And thank you so much. And I'm happy to answer any questions.